Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of HR Mentorship Leadership Series. Okay, we call it 90 minutes with an HR leader. And indeed, of the truth, we have yet another seasoned leader in the house. We brought leaders like Yemi Fashewu YF. We've had people like Professor Yemi Ajayi, and we still have more in the offing. Brethren, ladies and gentlemen, I do not like to take this for granted. Bringing Emmanuel Michael to this platform was not an easy task. It was almost like bringing a dawn to the university from Harvard to a local place. But fortunately, EM is a very gentleman, complete professional. We have to walk around his tight schedule to make himself available. I'll be saying a few things about him in the next few minutes, but I'd like us to please reach out to our friends, our colleagues, our associates, people who are our juniors or peers, anyone you want to grow, especially in their HR career. Please, this is the time to reach out to them to come and tap from this wisdom, from this fountain of knowledge. And I'll begin to say a few things quickly about Emmanuel Michael, even though sometimes he looks like a man that needs no introduction. But just to set the ground rolling, okay? He is a senior professional human resource. Of course, he's a member of the Tara Institute of Personnel Management. Michael has won numerous awards, and I will say a few of them just to inspire you. He's part of the 100 most influential global HR leader. 101 global HR hero. He's a leadership coach. He's a career coach. He's a success coach. So watch out for career success tips today. He's a best-selling author. He's also a public speaker, a prolific one at that. He's the founder and host of HR with EM, a platform through which he disseminates information, life-transforming, career-transforming information. And of course, HR Mentorship is proud to be collaborating with HR with EM today as we showcase this edition. He has worked in quite a number of places, but most recently, the last 6 to 7 years, he has been working with Let's Shego, a firm he managed for about even 18 months as the CEO at some point. I can also gladly say that he has had education in reputable universities like Harvard Business School Executive Education Program, Cornell University, okay, and even the great Obafemi Awolowo University. You will see that this is a man that is worth listening to. Please, with warmth and applause, with virtual emoticons, please, let's receive Emmanuel Michael. Welcome, EM.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And happy Sunday to each and every one of us. Okay, so how do we go about the whole thing? It's nice being here. Okay, so it's nice being here, nice seeing everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. I've been on the WhatsApp group for some time. It's been exciting where we exchange ideas. So I'm happy to meet everyone. I'm happy to meet each and every one of us here. So the expectation, I wonder what the expectation is. Since it's 90 minutes with HR leaders. Just a moment. Good.
So if you have specific questions for EM, feel free to type them.
Yes, you can begin to drop the questions so that I know what exactly do you want. Yeah, what exactly do you want to hear from me? So I'm looking at the chat box to see if there are questions there for me. And then what is that thing that you want to hear from me? I'm sure there are some people who are dying to hear me speak, maybe wanting to find out certain things about me. I think this is an opportunity to have that engagement. Maybe let me start first by sharing about how I stumbled into HR, because HR was not something that I planned for. I just stumbled into it. Okay, so I stumbled into HR. So I actually started HR in 2003. So this is 2022. So I guess I'm going to be 19 years or so. Yeah, 19 years in HR. So before I found myself in HR, I had worked in several places. So I used to tell people that my first career was as a stenographer. So if you don't know what a stenographer is, that's the assignment. So you go Google, find out who a stenographer is. So that was my first career. I worked as a stenographer, and then after which I found myself in an engineering multidisciplinary consulting firm. It was initially a quantity surveying firm. From quantity surveying, then the company opened a multidisciplinary engineering consulting firm that provide both architectural, civil engineering, and all sorts, especially in the building construction industry. So I joined that particular organization. Then I worked up to a point. I was the office administrator. From office administrator, for those of us who knew during the Abacha days, there's what was called the Petroleum Trust Fund. So I worked with the managing consultant for that particular project. Was known as AFRI Projects. So I was the technical support executive, as a technical support assistant to the executive director in charge of project execution. So I worked in that particular firm for quite some time, from 96 up until the civilian administration took over. Okay. Then from there, because of the challenges the company had, no change of government, and there were lots of issues with the project, the company now broke down into small different subsidiaries or small different companies. Okay, so an IT company was created. So I moved to join the IT establishment. So I trained as a network engineer, certified as a network engineer, so responsible for connecting systems, setting up servers, connecting multiple sites of a company. Okay, one of the projects that I handled was the NAPEP wide area network. For those of us who know NAPEP, not the Keke NAPEP, okay? So Keke NAPEP came out of the, the NAPEP itself. So it was a poverty alleviation program of the government. So I was responsible for the networking for that particular establishment at that particular time. So at the end of that project, so things were not that rosy any longer. I started looking out for other opportunities elsewhere, okay? And then there was this hotel I was about to set up in Abuja then, because I was in Abuja. So I went to the place, applied as an IT manager. On getting there during the time of the interview. So what happened was that I was actually referred, okay, through a friend. So I told him I was looking for a job, and I was referred by a friend to get to this place. On getting there, the team that was doing the recruitment told me that they didn't have any opening for IT manager. However, they had an opening for an HR manager. So looking through my CV, because of the administrative experience that I've had, okay, over the years, they felt that, okay, that I will be able to perform in that particular role. So when I was told I need to function, I thought to them, okay, I haven't really handled such a position. But in the course of what I've been doing, yes, I've managed people. When I was the office administrator, I managed some people who were working with me. So I've done some of those things, okay? And I said, okay, but I need to get additional training on what to do and how to go about the whole project. So they told me that, okay, that I was going to work with the team that came in from France because they were just there to, it's like the pre-opening team. So when there's a new hotel coming up, usually there'll be a pre-opening team that will come to set up that particular hotel. So they'll do the recruitment, do the training, set up the place before they now leave and hand over to the local management. So I was going to work with that team. So I worked with them for a period, I think for 2 weeks or so. So we did the recruitment, the training, and the person who was like the head of the HR team now said to me that by the time we finish, he was going to, take me through what I'm expected to do and eventually put me through. Okay, so we finished, and I was given my offer letter, and I was given one big folder, okay, thick cover folder that had the manual of operation. So there was the HR manual of operation for that particular organization. It was called the Meridian, okay, headquartered in France, Paris. So he gave me that book, and then the next day he told me he was leaving, and that by the time I go through that voluminous file folder from the beginning to the end, I should just follow it page by page and implement everything I see in that particular book. That when I've done that, completed it, that I'll be a very good HR person. So that was just, and I said, but this is not what we agreed. We agreed that you were going to take me through some of the process. He said that is the process that he's taking me through. Just implement everything that you find in this particular book, and you'll be a good HR person. And if you need any, as you go along, implement. If you need any support, feel free to reach out to me. So that was how I found myself in HR. So I went back, I then started researching, started looking for schools, how I can, improve myself, because I wanted to be the best. So it took me 2 weeks to go through, just glance through from beginning to end. It took me 2 weeks to glance through from beginning to end in order to understand exactly what is contained in that particular book. So after doing that, when I had challenges, I also got back to this particular HR director who was overseeing the country at that particular time. And then I also enrolled for certification. So I tried to join CIPM then. So it took a very long time. I couldn't get my hands on CIPM. So I joined the SHRM. I think that was in 2004. I joined SHRM. So most of the things I was implementing based on the knowledge I was getting from the SHRM courses, materials that I was going through, it helped me a lot to be able to wade through this particular period. So that was basically how I found myself in HR. So that's the story about how I came into HR. And then since then, I've been doing a lot of things which has led into several recognition. So I joined, my first role was initially as an assistant HR manager. So they said they wanted to test me out to be sure that I knew exactly what to do. Okay. I think in the space of less than 6 months or so, so I moved from assistant HR manager to HR manager. And then by 2005, so between 2003 and 2005, I became HR director, okay, for that particular establishment. It got to the point that I was not just only HR director for the property that I was managing. I was also made the HR champion for West Africa. So because of my IT knowledge, when it was time to deploy HR information technology across the West Africa sub-region, and they looked through all the HR directors in that region, I was the only one who had a very good IT background. So anytime we needed to do anything systems, it will be manual that will be called upon, okay? And during that particular period, so there was a time we wanted to deploy a recruitment tool, it was called Talio then. I was the only person from the whole of the Africa division that was selected to go to the US. And that was my first time of actually visiting the US. Okay, that was my very first trip. I think that was in 2007. That was in the, that has been the way there. I moved to another hospital. I moved from the Meridian to Sheraton. From Sheraton, another hospitality company that is headquartered in Zimbabwe. Okay, so I was deployed to Calabar. So I was overseeing Calabar, Tinapa. So that was a hotel in Tinapa. the Obudu cattle ranch that some of you already know. So I was also overseeing Obudu, Nike Lake in Enugu. Then there was another hotel in Lagos, the Best Western Hotel. So I was the like the country HR manager for that particular brand, was known as the African Sun Hotel Group. Okay. Then from there, while in Calabar, there were some, because it's the government, Calabar is owned by, the hotel there is owned by the government. The Obudu Cattle is owned by the government. When I saw people on the road, I started another opportunity to move. So I engaged with, engaging with, connected with on LinkedIn, and that was how I got my first financial services engagement. So I moved from Calabar to Lagos. I worked with Action for some time, and then now I'm currently working with another Pan-African company, Leshego, which is headquartered in Botswana. So that's the brief story about my career. So maybe if there are specific questions, I can then take those questions. So let me see, what else do I need to talk about? Okay, so someone wants me to talk about when I acted as an interim CEO. Okay, so a point of correction, it wasn't 18 months, it was for 6 months. I was interim CEO for 6 months. When I joined this current company, it was Leshego. So I joined the company, and we had a situation where the person who was acting as the CEO had to go, and we're still recruiting. So because we hadn't recruited a substantive CEO, the board at that time, I guess, looking through my track record and my contribution during our engagement, they felt that I would be an appropriate person to hold forth while we continue to recruit a substantive CEO. So the question that I have is, what is it that made them consider me? So I will say what I asked, okay? I asked to find out why was I being selected to act in that particular role, because there were people who were there before me. And there was actually one person that I thought would have been the appropriate person to be selected. But the board felt more comfortable in selecting me. So the feedback that I got was that some of the contributions that I made, or I usually make during the meetings, was what kind of made me to stand out. Okay, so I wasn't just talking HR. Yes, when we sit in the meeting, I wear the HR hat, but I was contributing to the business. I wanted to see how the business will move forward. So my contributions were around how to improve the business, how to make sure that the business achieved its goals. Okay, so focus was not just only on people. Even though I talked about people, it was how do you use people to, how do you use the people within the organization to help the organization achieve its goals. Okay, so there was some kind of balance between making sure that we meet our people needs and also meet the business needs. So this helps somehow to make me stand out in those conversations. And that was how, that was what I was told that made them to decide to give me the opportunity to hold forth. And during that particular 6 months that we held forth, somehow, luckily, and by the grace of God, the business did not go down. Okay, so we maintained profitability during that particular period. The ratios that we are monitoring also improved during that particular period. And since then, so somehow, when the CEO is not available, I kind of be the one that now step in, okay, to hold forth at any point in time. So that has been the kind of relationship that I have. And then when we look at amongst the team, okay, there are other people who could have been made signatories in the organization, but they not found me suitable to be able to say, okay, this has to be one of our A-list persons in that particular organization. So it's not just as if it's something that I expected, but somehow the organization found that, okay, this person is trustworthy, knows what he's doing, and we can count on him. Okay, so what else do I talk about? There was a question here that says you have been at the same organization for a while. How have you been able to do this? How do you handle opportunities that may have been coming for you? What do you advise? What do you advise to stay in one place or move around? There's a lot of questions. Okay, so maybe let's start with the first one. You have been at the same organization for a while. Okay, so what happens is that whenever I join any organization, okay, I say to myself that I'm going to be there for the first 5 years. Okay, so for the first 5 years, I give myself first 5 years. Before joining that organization, usually I want to find out what is the expectation. Okay, so the expectation will determine what the organization expects me to deliver. So I also have my own personal expectation of how I want the organization to treat me. Okay, so during this 5-year period, I will use the 5-year period to decide whether I should stay or I should leave. If I'm treated well and everything is going as expected, I'm also delivering, meeting my goals. So I will then, that will inform whether I should continue or not. So upon joining an organization, just a moment.
So while we wait for him, let's keep the questions coming in. I also like to appeal that you invite others to join this session. I hope you are taking notes. I'm taking notes myself here. So far, you will agree with me that EF, that is Emmanuel Michael, has been dropping nuggets one after the other. The first thing I find fascinating is that he went for an IT manager opportunity and came back with an HR manager or assistant HR manager opportunity. In other words, we may have to be open-minded. Okay, sometimes the next phase of our career, the next phase of our growth may not be from an expected agenda. You know, you have to embrace life and opportunities with an open mind. I was just trying to recap what I've been learning so far. So if you are back, I will stay back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had to try something. So, okay, so I'm back. So, where was I? Okay, yeah, so I was saying, I give myself usually 5 years. Okay, that's the max that I want to stay, or that's the first tenure. And then after which I will reappraise what I've done in that particular organization. Am I contributing value? Am I also gaining from that particular organization? If I am, then I will want to stay longer, okay? Except another opportunity or something else comes my way, which is better than what I'm currently enjoying. So it doesn't mean that because I stayed in an organization for a long time, I don't get offers. I get a lot of offers, okay? But what I do is to weigh what am I doing in this particular organization currently? To stay. So that's usually what happens. So at the back of my mind, always have an exit plan. Okay, always have an exit plan. Always have, these are the things that I can take, your non-negotiables in that particular organization. So if I join an organization and I notice that, let's say for instance, we've agreed, okay, when I join, we've agreed that this is what you want me to deliver. And I discover that the person who has told me this is what you want me to deliver is becoming the obstacle for me, okay? It's not enabling me to deliver those things that they want me to deliver. Then it means that that's not an organization where I will want to stay. I will have to begin to find my way to leave that particular organization. Okay, so I think I've answered all that. Opportunities that come my way, I've answered. I weigh them. Okay. I don't usually like to just jump out. I like to weigh and know exactly what you want me to do and if that environment will allow me to thrive or not. The other question that I have here says, you've won many awards globally and national. How were you able to earn these awards? Did you set out to become global? Okay, I really didn't set out to become global. I didn't set out to win any awards. I was just doing my thing. And suddenly all the awards started coming on their own. Okay. So even in the organization where I worked when I started my HR, I wasn't expecting to be the one to be singled out. Okay. The one thing about me is that I always like to help. I always like to help. So when I see someone is going through a challenge, if I can assist the person, I volunteer myself to help. So I guess because I was always volunteering myself to support, to help. So like in the first company where when I started my HR role. So when we were deploying surveys, okay, and people were having challenges on how to use those surveys. So I always volunteer in our meetings to support and all that. So I guess that was how I was identified as someone who has that particular skill in that particular area. And that made me stand out. And that was why I was made systems champion for that particular organization. And then I remember when I joined LinkedIn, okay, so there was this CIPM group that was set up by Leke. Yeah. So the I've forgotten this company now. So it was set up by Leke. So there's a CIPM network on LinkedIn. So usually I go to that particular group. When I joined, I noticed people were asking questions, HR issues about employee relations and all that. Incidentally, because when I found myself in HR, I was doing a lot of reading. So some of the questions that people were asking, and some of them I've read, some of them that I've seen in the manual that I was implementing in the organization, and some of the challenges that I've also faced in my organization. So I will then share my idea, my experience, provide solutions as to how I have solved them. Okay. So I guess this began to draw people to me, and people started sending in questions. When anyone has a challenge, they send questions to me. And that was what I kept on doing until suddenly I started noticing people writing me to say, okay, they like what I'm doing. I'm being recognized for XYZ. And then, so I'll check it out. As far as you're not asking me to pay money to get an award, I will take it from you. Okay. So that was basically how the awards have been coming. And then I started writing extensively on LinkedIn. I started extensively on LinkedIn, sharing knowledge. And as a result of that, so many people reached out to me, so many organizations reached out to me, even people wanting me to consult for them, okay? Out of this country, there are some investors who want to come into the country and they need someone that they want to talk to about HR issues, they reach out to me. So I guess this basically was what started bringing the awards my way. Okay, the other question that I can see here says, you write a lot. How do you balance your schedule at work and manage your online presence? How do you balance your schedule at work and manage your online presence? Okay, so by writings, basically because I read a lot, so that's why I write a lot. Okay, so most of the things you see me share are outcome of what I'm reading. So as I read, I learn something and I feel that, okay, this thing that I'm reading is also going to be useful to some other people who are following me on LinkedIn. I share that. So that's why you see I share. So every day I'm always reading there's something I'm reading every day. Okay. I have books that I've outlined that I'm going to read from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So every day I read. And then sometimes when I even do my personal devotion, there are, what do you call it? Lessons that I learned from my personal devotion. So when I'm reading my Bible or reading my devotion, there are things that I learned from there. I will then see how this thing that I'm reading now, how can I apply it at the workplace? Okay. How can I relate it to HR issues? How can I relate it to people management issues? And if I can see that connection, then I will share it. So that's basically how you see me share almost on a daily basis. There is something that I share on LinkedIn. Okay. Okay, so let me see from the chats if there are other questions. I can see so many questions coming in. I hope I'll be able to take all of them. Let me see from the top. Okay. There is one here that says, how can an HR person transition to C level? Okay, so to transition to C level, there is something that when I was working in the hospitality industry with the Starwood Group, okay, there was something that we did there, which we call the talent review. So as part of the talent review, um, each employee is expected to aspire for a higher role, okay? So depending on which level that you are. So for all those senior, especially the C-suite levels, so we have the job profiles, okay? What I would advise is something similar to what we did there. Identify the job profile of the C-suite that you want to play in, or you want to see yourself advance to or transition into, okay? And then what do? We then take your profile as it is today, do a gap analysis. So compare what you need to be able to fit into that particular role and where you are today. So that was the exercise that we did. And that is the exercise that I do all the time. So when I want something, I try to get the profile for that particular job role, look at where I am, identify the gaps, and then begin to work towards covering those particular gaps. So those gaps might require you either to get additional training or might require you to gain certain experience. So if you don't have that experience, you might not be able to get the experience on your current job role. So you find a way to participate in projects that will enable you acquire that experience, okay? Acquire the skill that you need. And then when you feel that you've now been able to acquire the capacity, the capability, the skills, knowledge, and the experience that is required to play in that particular role, then you begin to seek that higher role. So that is what I would advise for anyone who wants to transition from wherever they are to a C-level role. Get that C-level role job profile. So there are certain things apart from the educational qualification, the skills that you need. Try to also see if you can get a mentor who is in that particular that will guide you. Okay. So like before I became the HR director, so I had a sponsor, okay, in that particular organization who always speaks for me. So whenever I had challenges, he identified me as someone he wants to help. And whenever I had challenges, from time to time, I speak to him, okay, and then he also watches out for me. So sometimes I make some mistakes, and he will call me and say, Emmanuel, the way you handle this thing is you didn't handle it at the level of someone who is a senior or who wants to become a senior. So this is the way you need to handle it when it occurs next time. So I was always getting guidance from him. So you need to find someone that will guide you, okay? Because at that top level, there are certain level of activities, politicking that takes place. You need to be able to know how to manage yourself in that particular space, how to present yourself, okay, what sort of presence is required for you to succeed at that particular level, okay? So you need someone to be able to guide you. So if you don't have a mentor, try to get a mentor. In your organization, if you can get a sponsor. And how do you get a sponsor? It's not that you go and tell somebody, I want you to be my sponsor. It's the way you do your work, okay? So like for me to be selected as the only person from the Africa region to represent the region for that particular project is because this particular HR director who is based in France identified something about me. And what was that? I was always volunteering, always making myself available. Even if it is not something that I need to do, it's not within my schedule, I volunteer myself, to help. And this person says, this guy, when you want something done, you can easily call on him to get it done. Until today, I know that in my organization, when they want something done, they say, okay, this guy is always ready, available to volunteer himself. We can get him to get these things done. Okay, so that's something for anyone who wants to transition to C-level is to do. So get the profile, check out what are the gaps, work towards filling up those gaps, and then launch yourself out. What other question can I see here? Let's see. What is your advice for a person transitioning from customer service admin related job to HR after over 5 years experience? And what ways do you think this transition can be seamless? So one key thing is you are coming from customer service and admin role. There are transferable skills. So there's something we call transferable skills, skills that you've acquired that will still be relevant for the HR role, okay, if you're not in HR. And like I said, get the HR job role that you want to fit into. Do you want to become an HR manager, HR officer? Is it a compensation and benefits manager? Whatever it is, either a generalist HR role or a specialist HR role that you want to find yourself in. Get that job profile. Look at what you've done before. Do you have any skills that you've acquired in your previous role that are relevant, okay, for the future role? That's the first thing that you do. And then if there are areas where you need to bridge it, whether with training, with some volunteering experience is also very key, okay? So you might think volunteering is not really relevant. It is relevant. So depending on, you don't just volunteer for the sake of volunteering. Have a goal in mind when you want to volunteer your time. So depending, like for this person now who wants to move into HR, so begin to identify, even in your current organization, identify, make yourself available to the HR team so that when they have projects in HR, let them know that you want to support and volunteer. So in some organizations, they might make that opportunity available for you. But if it's not available in your current organization, you can also look out for any HR projects outside the organization. That would help you. If you do not belong to any HR group or you want to join, okay, so that's not a question. Let me see. What is your advice to your younger self? My younger self, what advice would I give to my younger self? Basically, I will say it would be nice to start early. Get someone who is going to give you a career advice, okay? If you have someone who's going to give you a career advice early enough, it helps you not to try so many. Like in my case, I tried so many things before eventually I settled on HR. So if you have someone who can give you a career advice as early as possible, so that you can then assess your skills, your capabilities, and see where your strength lies, that will help you to be able to shape your career on time. Okay, but as you move along, you might also want to, you might find something new that you want to do, okay? And then you move on. So get a career counselor. That will be what I'll give myself, the advice I'll give my younger self. How do you stay challenged by staying in the same organization for 5 years? Most have said that already. Expectation. The organization have an expectation. So as far as I'm providing value to the organization, and the organization is also giving me value, providing me value, then it will enable me to stay longer in that organization. When I don't see value, either I'm not contributing, I'm not receiving value, then it's time to make a change. I have a question, it's rather personal. I can't share specific on the platform. I would love to chat you up personally. Yeah, feel free. So if you have something personal, feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn, send me a WhatsApp message and I'll get back to you. Okay, so this person says, as regards the HR manual of operation, would love to request for it to help me grow as well. Okay, so this is a proprietary document and I will not be obliged, I won't be able to send that document to you. It's a proprietary document, but there is this book that I will ask you to, let me see, just a moment. Okay, so if HR, there's these books, I don't know if we can see the book. Okay, it's not showing very clearly. Okay, so it's called the Armstrong Handbook of Human Resource Management Practice. That's a book that I will ask anyone who wants to study HR. It's something that you might want to consult, okay? So it's the Armstrong Handbook of Human Resource Management Practice, a very good book. For this person who's asking for manual, this is a very good manual that you can use, okay? Let me see. Yeah, okay. Richard, thank you. Okay, so the next question here says, have you at a point in your HR career faced with the problem of management not giving support to HR or getting their buy-in, their buy to function? How did you handle it? Okay, so you always have situations where you don't get buy-in, okay? But somehow I've been lucky, but I also think I have situations where I didn't get a buy-in. So what do you do? Do not, as an HR person, okay, do not take it upon yourself that you are the only person who has the monopoly of knowledge and would have to solve all problems. You can never solve all problems, okay? So what I've done that has helped me is that when I identify a problem, I go to the person that I report to, and in most cases, I've reported to the CEO, okay? I go to the CEO. Okay, let me even start from what I do before I join an organization. So when I'm being hired, I try to find out what the challenge of that organization. What is it that they want me to come and solve? So the CEO will tell me what they want me to solve. Then when I resume, I will engage with other senior management team members, engage with the employees, identify their needs. When I've gathered all these needs together, I'll then put them together, categorize them, come back to the CEO and say, okay, this is your expectation. But when I went to the field, these are the other additional expectations that the people are also wanting me to help to fulfill. And then we'll agree with the CEO, what is the priority, okay? So when I've agreed with the CEO that this is the priority, because I've agreed with the CEO will then be the one that is pushing for those things to be executed, okay? So whoever is the ultimate decision maker in that organization, you need to get that person's buy-in. Let them know what you want to do, okay? So if I agree the priority, I'll then come back to the CEO and say, okay, based on the priority that we've selected, these are the actions that I want to take. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And these are some of the resistance that I expect when we take these actions, okay? So, and this is how I will need you to support me to overcome this resistance that might likely come when these actions are being taken. So already I have the CEO's buy-in. Now, in launching anything, so there are certain situations where I will need the CEO to be the one to become the spokesperson, and then mine is to execute. But the CEO will be talking from my own script. So I've had situations where before the CEO goes out, I'm the one who drafts the script of what is to be said. The CEO just goes there, reads out, this is what we need to do, blah, 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 and that Emmanuel is going to continue from there. Okay, so you will not know that I'm the person behind what is really going on. You will think it's the CEO that is the CEO's idea, but it's actually my idea, which I've channeled through the CEO. So that helps to break down all the walls. Okay, so that buy-in, I already have it from that CEO. Then let's also assume that at the senior management table, maybe there's one person who is always kicking down ideas. I also try to get that person to my side. How do I get the person to my side? By taking that particular problem to the person and try to gauge from the person, how would you want us to solve this particular problem? Okay, so the idea that the person brings, I also infuse it into my own idea. So when we now go out to implement, there will be no resistance because I've shared it with you and you say this is what we should do, okay, which tallies with what I want to do, okay, and then we go ahead to implement. So that resistance will automatically be broken down. So I hope I've helped you, Uchenna. Okay, let me see. Somebody's trying to say something.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. My name is Abayomi.
Okay,
So
Abayomi.
I've actually written my questions, but I noticed
Did I
you
skip
did.
it?
Yes, sir. You
I
skipped it.
haven't got into it.
Maybe you haven't got into it,
I'm
sir.
sure I haven't got it because I started from the beginning. I'm sure I haven't
Yes.
got into it, but I'll get to it.
All
I'll
right,
get
sir.
to it. I'll get to it. So let me take the next one. Where is it now? I skipped it. How do you handle challenge? I've done. Can you please talk about how you have had to manage stakeholders? So I've talked about that. Okay, I
Sir,
saw one that talked about.
that's exactly my question. But I guess I was
Which one is
saying
the question?
how to manage stakeholders.
Oh, how to manage stakeholders. So the only way to manage stakeholders that I know that has worked for me is you need to engage the stakeholders. Okay, engage the stakeholders. If there's an initiative you want to deploy, you need to talk to the people that are going to be affected. Talk to the people. So you go to them and share the challenge that the organization is facing, which you are trying to address, and get from them their view. So when a stakeholder feels that you've carried them along, okay, they feel that you've carried them along, they feel that the solution that is being delivered is part of the ideas that they are bringing on board. it makes it easy for you to work well with them. But if you just come and say, this is what we want to do, you just want them to take it, they will all resist you and say, you just came yesterday. We've been here for 5 years, we've been here for 10 years. You don't know what we've gone through. And you just come in and you just want to change everything. It doesn't work that way. So even if you feel what they're doing is wrong, you need to appreciate the fact that they've been through that organization longer than you that is just coming on board. Okay, so you need to understand where they're coming from, appreciate what they've done. Maybe when they joined, the challenge that you are facing now was even 1,000 times worse than what you are seeing today. So they've done something to bring it to this particular level. So you need to appreciate what they have done and then work with them to get to where you want them to get to. So that's basically how you manage stakeholders. You need to engage them, you need to talk to them. You can't just sweep them aside and say, no, these are old school. No, you need to talk to them. Okay. Okay, so let me see what else. Can you please recommend HR books and other books in general? So I've recommended one HR book, this one that says Armstrong Handbook of Human Resource Management Practice. It's a very good book. Okay. For anyone, whether you're just starting HR or even if you are grounded.
Yo, я Майнкрафтер долбоёб, я дебил. Майнкрафт, крипер, бойся, я тебя убью нахуй, долбоёб. Я эффективен и пиздец, я снимаю, бля. У меня 47.
Okay, so I hope we've removed that guy.
Yes, I'm on it.
Okay, okay. So that's what happens. So sometimes you have people who want to just come in and disturb. Okay, so let me see. I hope I've not skipped questions. Recommend books. So I've done that. So that's one book that I would recommend. Okay. Then let's see. What is your position on being an HR generalist before specialist, or can one just be a specialist from the onset? So you can start from being a specialist to a generalist. You can also move from being a generalist to a specialist. So in my case, I'm a generalist, okay? So I would say it's good to start from being a generalist. So you get to understand the different aspects in HR, understand all the different aspects in HR, and then at the end of the day, you then decide to specialize. If you take people, let's say take a doctor. When a doctor goes through their training, they teach them everything. At the end of the day, they now choose one area where they specialize. So I will also recommend the same thing for any HR person. When you're starting out in HR, don't just focus on one area. Try to understand all the different areas and then go with where your strength lies, okay? If you want to remain a generalist all your life, fine. If you feel there's a particular area where you have a stronger passion, then you can then move into that particular specialist area. That would be my advice. Start as a generalist and then move to become a specialist so that you have a fair idea of every aspect of HR, okay? If you desire a higher role today, okay, that's not a question. Divine says, what advice would you give someone starting out? I graduated last year and I'm currently taking CIPM certification. I'm serving. How do I go into HR position after service? Do I start as an intern, graduate, trainee, HR assistant? Okay, so it's good that you started taking your CIPM exam. The advice that I gave earlier also is also good. So take the job profile, look at what are the skills that are required for the job HR officer role. So I wouldn't say look for the HR officer job role profile. That will be where you should start, okay? And then in the course of this, while you're even doing your NYC, you are serving, see if there are any organization that you can volunteer your time, your spare time, okay? Volunteer to do any HR project, even the organization where you're currently serving. If they have an HR department, see if you can volunteer with that particular department. But get the job profile for the HR officer role. You can Google HR officer role job profile. Use that as a base. to do that gap analysis, identify the skills that are required, identify the knowledge that is required, identify the experience that is required, and then begin to develop yourself, okay? That's something that you need. So if there are courses you need to take, in addition to the CIPM exam, maybe there are some free online courses that you want to take. Sessions like this is also good. Join some of these, like this HR mentoring WhatsApp group that we have that's organizing this particular event. You can join them. You'll be able to share, network with other HR people. If you're on LinkedIn, connect with other HR professionals, okay? It's easier for you to get a job through referral, okay? When there's an opening or somebody refers you. So it makes it easier because this person has been talking with you, engaging with you. They will be able to vouch and say, okay, I know this person, we've worked in a particular project before and they can do well, and you will get a job very fast, okay? What's the next one? What is your single most favorite book? My single most favorite book. So I love to read. I have several. All John Maxwell's books are my favorite, so I really can't pick out one. Okay, John Maxwell's books. So that's why sometimes you see me share a lot from the John Maxwell book. So I love things about leadership. Yeah. So John Maxwell book, I love reading them. Those are my favorite books. Reading the John Maxwell Leadership Bible. What's the next thing? Talk about stakeholder management. So I think I've talked about stakeholder management. Let's see. As a newbie in the HR space, interning with a company that work remotely, but in the finance space, the managing partner would want to have a meeting with me tomorrow, asking me things you could bring to the table, even as an HR intern, to also help the organization. Please, can you give me tips on teams I could discuss with him to make me stand out? Okay, so you need to ask yourself, this organization that I'm working for, how do they make money? Okay, what is their goal? What is the goal? What is the corporate goal for this organization for this year? So you need to look at the objective that the company has set for itself. How can you help the company achieve that particular objective? So let me take an example now. In my organization, I work in the financial services space. One of our objectives is that we want to grow our loan portfolio, want to grow our deposit portfolio. In order to do that, how can I help from the HR point of view? Okay, we need to make sure that everybody is performing, that productivity is at max level. Okay, so if productivity has to be high, what then do I do? How can I help people to be productive? Okay, so we start first by even identifying the productivity level of each person who is selling the product, and then identifying the challenges that they face. Okay, if they are not excelling. For those who are excelling, it means I need to engage with them to know what they're doing to excel. Those who are not excelling, I need to engage with them to find out the challenge that they have. And then that feedback would help me to determine how I can support. You know, it's like when you are sick and you go to a doctor, okay? The doctor just looking at you will not know what sort of medication to prescribe. You need to tell the doctor exactly how you are feeling, okay? And based on what you tell the doctor will then decide to say, okay, based on what you've described, do I need to carry out further tests, to determine exactly what is wrong with you before I can prescribe medicine? Or based on what you've just shared, can I just go ahead and prescribe a certain medication? So that is the way the HR person is. So see yourself as a doctor. Okay, all HR people, we are like doctors. See yourself as doctors in that organization. So for you to be able to prescribe a solution that will help the organization achieve its objectives, you need to first of all identify what the challenge is. And you can only identify the challenge by talking to the people, by carrying up additional dipstick survey in that organization before you then prescribe a solution. So if you just come up as an HR person and say, this organization is doing something nice, I like this idea, I like this initiative, and you bring it to your organization, it's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. So you must provide solutions that will help the organization improve in whatever area that they want to improve. Okay. Let's see. Olajide says, how important are HR certifications to HR career progression as against HR work experience? Okay, so you need to ask yourself, why do we need certification? Certification, as its name, there is a difference between certificate and certification. Okay, certificate you get when you've acquired certain knowledge. That's certificate. Certification is an attestation that you can actually do something. Okay, so if you've gained, I usually will say gain some experience before certification, except that certification is one that will help you gain knowledge, okay, before you practice, like the CIPM certification. It helps you to gain knowledge, because when you go through that writing exams, okay, the CIPM exam, you acquire all the basic foundational knowledge that will enable you to succeed as an HR professional. Are we together? So certifications, I will say certifications are key in your HR work. So try as much as possible. If you've gained certain experience, then you need to get certification. Certification will kind of solidify, attest to the world that yes, you actually know what you're doing in that particular field. Then how can we get the copy of the book? Okay, so send me a message and I would send me a message on LinkedIn, okay? And I would arrange how you get it. Okay, somebody has even shared something here. 2014. Okay, so the 2014 one is free, but I think this one that I have is the 2020. Yeah, this is the 20. This is the current edition. The current edition is 2020. Okay, of that book. Current edition is 2020. Send me a message and I will let you know how you can get that. Let's see, what other question do we have? In a case where the management is not interested in the welfare of its staff and keeps saying we are not making profits and this is seriously leading to high turnover, what can the HR do? So the question that you need to answer, if the management is saying we are not making profit, is the organization really making profit? That's the question you need to answer. If the organization is not making profit, what can you do to help the organization to make profit? The thing is that if there is no money, there is no money. There's nothing the organization can do, even if they want to give the best. Even the organization wants to give the best to its people, but they can't afford it. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Okay. So what we then need to do is, how can we help the organization to afford it? It's by increasing productivity. So if there's anything we can do to increase productivity, okay, anything we can do to increase productivity to the point where the organization can now begin to afford these things that will improve welfare, then we can begin to talk about it. It's like sometimes we say, okay, things are expensive now. The salaries are no longer good enough. We need to increase salary. How can you increase salary when the organization is really not making money? The income is not there. So where are they going to get the money? Are they going to borrow to increase the salary? Okay. So what to do would be to find the way that we can then creatively increase our income. And then as we're increasing the income, we then make sure that the employees are also benefiting. Okay, kindly share the HR book with us so that we can get it. Okay. So like I said, on the book, reach out to me and I will let you know how you get the book. In case where the CEO do not approve your initiative, always imposing his own, always favoring some staff against others. Okay, so for the CEO not to approve your initiative, it means that trust, credibility is an issue in that particular, between yourself and that CEO. Okay, you need to be able to gain the trust of your CEO. And how do you gain the trust of your CEO? When you join the organization, whatever it is that both of you have agreed that you need to deliver, if you're able to deliver it on time, okay, you'll be able to gain that trust and it somehow improve your credibility. Then in terms of favoring staff, when you notice that the CEO is fond of favoring staff, one thing that has worked for me is for us to come up with the policy and procedure for everything that we do in that particular organization. So if we have a set standard, which everyone collectively agrees to, so we draw up this standard collectively and we commit that this standard This is how it's going to help us improve this organization. This is how it's going to help us achieve the goal that we set out for this organization. Okay. If we collectively drew up this standard, commit to it, then and we also put a penalty when we go against it. This is the action that needs to be taken, and it's signed. Okay. Fortunately for me, I've not really worked for a one-man business. I think the one-man business that I worked for was somehow structured also. Okay, we had rules, regulation, we had guidelines, so it was easy to implement. So try, if it's possible, to have these guidelines put in place. When guidelines are put in place, and if the person is the one-man business or the CEO is one who wants their business to grow, if we are lucky, if it's a limited liability company that has a board, that guideline is even approved by the board level. Okay, and when there are challenges, how we then have an escalation procedure on what to do when anyone goes against what is in that particular guidebook. It makes it easy for us to apply the same standard across board. So that is what has worked for me. And I try as much as possible for every organization that I work for to make sure there's an organization that has a proper corporate governance in place. Okay, most of the organizations that I've worked, even the CEO is an employee. We're all employees, so there's really no one man that wields the ultimate power. Okay, so we're all employees, and everybody knows where their power starts and where it stops. Okay, and knows what to do next if you are being pushed. So you have escalation process in place. So that is what has helped me and worked for me. How do you reconcile your dreams with that of the organization? They don't take your advice in terms of welfare policy. So one thing we need to know is that organizations are not welfare organizations. Companies are not welfare organizations. Every company that is set up to make money. So you need to understand that first. And you that is coming to work for the company, you're not coming to work for charity. You're coming there to work because you want to earn a pay. Okay, so that should be clear. I'm coming here to work to earn a pay. So I provide you my services, you pay me for it. The organization, you provide them service, they pay you for it. Okay, so we need to have that at the back of mind. So if the organization is not making money, I will not be happy paying out money when I'm not making money. So I need to make money. I'm excited, then I give you part of what I'm making. Okay, so that's one thing we need to have at the back. So whenever we are looking for welfare, you need to ask yourself, can the organization afford it? If the organization cannot afford it, then you just know that we are wasting time. So that's why sometimes you notice that the HR people have challenges because you want a lot of welfare things for the people, but you are forgetting to look at this organization, can it afford it or not? If the organization makes so much money, like I used to tell my people, if you want salary to be increased, we can increase salary every day. We can increase salary every month. Okay. The secret to doing that is keep increasing the revenue 10 times. Increase the revenue 10 times every time, and it doesn't drop. There is nothing you will come to ask for that you won't get because you're helping the company increase the revenue 10 times. Okay. So that's something you need to have at the back of your mind. As a generalist, you can get a fair idea of all aspects. Okay. So there's one long question from Ebere. Let's see. Our 40 messages I've not read, so I hope I get to it before 8:30. As regards management of stakeholders, how do you handle conflict or misunderstanding with stakeholders? Bearing in mind they are part of decision makers in the organization and you don't want to conform to their process all the time because it's not favorable to your department. How do you also handle stakeholders who take over a job role and process like it's theirs? So like I've said, when there is order, there is rules, there's regulation, you will avoid all these things. It's when things are not properly written out, there's no rule, there's no regulation. That's where you have people wanting to take over jobs that are not theirs, okay? People wanting people to do something that they're not supposed to do because there's no rule and regulation. So we need to get to the point where we can have rules and regulation guiding every aspect. So when you start out, you might not have rules and regulation guiding everything, but as situations begin to come up, you then see, okay, we don't have any rules guiding this particular behavior or conduct. Then we come up with something, okay? and then share it amongst everyone. And then whenever you are proposing something, propose it to show the benefit that that person who is actually committing that offense is going to gain if that initiative is implemented. So let's say, for instance, you have a situation where the CEO always likes to wake up and say, okay, increase this person's salary, increase that person's salary. So you need to show them that that's by doing that, the disadvantage that the organization, the advantage to the organization, you know, by such actions, and then show them how what you're proposing will help address that disadvantage. They will buy into the idea. If they can see that it will help them to grow their business, they will buy into the idea. Okay, let me see. So it says, thank you, sir, for this opportunity to listen to you and the organizers who put this together. For non-technical roles, sales, finance, HR, is it more important to focus on certification or prospects, personal attributes like honesty, ability to deliver, and the likes? Okay, so for every job role, okay, there's something we call knowledge, skill, okay, abilities or experience. So it's good for you to have the knowledge about, for you to acquire the skills for that particular job. It's good for you to acquire an external party to attest to the fact that you possess that knowledge, possess the ability to deliver on that particular job. So but you need to get them at different levels. So acquire the knowledge first, and the ability to actually do the job, which is the experience in doing that job, and attest to the fact that you can do all these things. Okay, so they are all very important, but you need to get them. You can't get them all grow in stages. Like my CIPM, I didn't get my CIPM. I started practicing HR in 2003, right? Pursuing to get CIPM from 2005. It's until 2015 before I got my my CIPM, and my HRCI certification I also got it in 2015, 2016. That's when I got my HRCI this thing. But that did not stop me from attending several HR programs, both in country and outside the country. Okay, and some organized by the previous companies that I was working with. So it's very together. So certification basically is another body attesting to the fact that you can do these things. So it's good. Okay, something good for you to have. Have you ever had challenges and failures in your career as an HR? You made a decision that seems like it's not the best. Yes, I've made plenty decisions that are not good. But own it. Don't try to run away from those mistakes. You own it, and then you try not to repeat that. So I've made several challenges. Like the example I gave earlier, where my director was telling me that the way you did what you did, that you did not act like someone who initially was moved into the senior role as HR director. So he felt that I did not operate at that particular level, and then started guiding me. When you have this kind of decision, don't be in a rush to make a decision. Try to weigh it. If you are confused, talk to people who have done or handled such situations before and find out how they're going to handle. You can never run away from making a bad mistake, or making a bad decision. So sometimes you make a decision and then you made the right decision. You somehow discover that, oh no, this is a wrong decision. So what do? Own that mistake and then learn when such situation occur, and then you move on. What one key formula in spotting the right talent when recruiting before they come in and underperform after talking the talk? So you can do your best to get in the right talent. And how do you get the right talent? For the job role you want to recruit, if you have a proper specification for that particular job role, identify one who fits that bill. Okay, so that's the first thing that you do. So that's somehow enables you to assess whether you are bringing in the right person or not. And then in terms of the interview, behavioral interviewing framework, okay, to interview candidates. And it's basically trying to judge whether that person has done that type of job before in the past, okay? Look for someone who has practicalized what you are looking for in the past, and they show you examples, okay? So some might talk, try to tell you some nice, sweet stories, but if you ask them certain into what is that they have done, you'll be able to know if they are really telling you the truth or not, if they've done that. And if they've done it, you expect that they should exhibit it in that organization. Probation, but try to see that they begin to deliver within the first 2-3 months. Okay. That is what has worked for me. So that's, I don't wait until 6 months before it. As they resume, you need to have a program of what they're going to achieve. Okay, you've shared the objective, you should tell you how they're going to do it, and begin to measure performance actually from the first month. Okay, begin to measure performance from the first month and hold regular conversations with these particular candidates that you've hired. Your take on office romance in this age. Okay, so I remember, was it last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks, we did something about office romance, and some are for it, some are against it. So like I say, you can't rule it out. Okay, if you find yourself in a particular place 60% or of the time, okay, let's say in 24 hours, 2/3 of the time in 24 hours, you find yourself with a particular person in the same place, envelope is high. What every organization should do is that the organization should have rules guiding what sort of relationship are allowed, relationships that are not allowed, and for those that are not allowed, if they eventually occur, what is the way out? Okay, so have rules guiding that. That is what has worked. When I was in the hospitality industry, the relationships are not allowed, but it doesn't mean that people don't get married. They get married. So when they get married, so the rules are there. Either one person will be moved to a different department or move to continue their relationship. But you won't have a supervisor having a relationship with the person that they are subordinate. No, that is a no. Okay. So organizations need to have a rule. So that is, so do not have situation whereby somebody that is the manager is having a relationship with the person that they are going to appraise. There will be a lot of bias there. Subjectivity will come in. Okay. Let me see. What are the steps that HR can take in an organization with no existing HR department to be recognized by employees? Okay, so if you say there's no HR department, for you to be hired, when you hired as an HR person, if you're hired as an HR person, it means that the organization wants you to set up that department. So when you are joining, if there's no HR department, the question that I would ask is, recruiting for the role. If no, is there someone there currently? Or if the person is not there, what happens? Did the person leave? So if the answer is that this is the first time we are recruiting for this role, we don't have it. So it then therefore means that you will be the one setting up the department. So part of the conversation that I would expect you to have with the recruiter is what you will require to successfully set up that particular department. Okay. What else? Let me see. We have this standard, but he always changes it all the time to his favor. We do not have board of directors. So if I find myself, like I said, I always ask myself, is this organization giving me value, or am I also bringing value to the organization? So if you work for an organization where the CEO is the be it all and changes the standard every day, for me, that is not the place I want to be. I can't work in that kind of organization. So I would, I can't work in that kind of organization. So I would definitely, if I don't see myself getting into that organization in the first place, okay? Because when I'm being invited, okay, let me explain something. I don't just throw my CVs out to anyone. Most of the jobs that I've gotten, except for my first HR job role, every other job role, I've been referred, okay, I've been headhunted, okay. And when I get there, before I go for the interview, I try to do some investigation, just the way the employer. I need to know who is behind the organization, what sort of structure they have in that particular organization before I go there. Okay, so that is for me. It might not work for you. Okay, so if you're starting out, you might want to start out in a one-man, be it all organization before you then eventually get to the point where you want to work for. So, but do research the organization. Okay, know what you're going to be facing before you get in there, and then plan what your exits, what is it that you can take, have an exit plan, okay? And it's not going the way you expect. What can you do when the obstacles to your success as human resource professional are the business owners themselves? Get the business owners on your side. Try to find out why is it that they don't work well with you, okay? Engage, we can never stop. Engage, discuss, get feedback, try to understand why they are not working well with you, and then see if it's something that you can change. Something you can change, then you change it. If something you can't change is a non-negotiable, then you find an alternative way. Okay. Let's see. Now, to have for a senior management role, such as head of HR. Okay, so as a senior management person in HR, don't see yourself as just an HR person. See yourself as a business leader. Business acumen is very key. You need to know how the organization is making money, okay? And how can you help them to make more money? Because when they make more money, they will have more money for your training programs. They have more money for the employees. They will have more money for anything that you want done. So learn to see how do they make money, okay? And how can you help them make more money? That's one critical skill that any senior, anyone who wants to function in the role as head of HR should acquire. How does that organization reports? Okay. I work in a microfinance bank. I understand how you calculate the portfolio quality. Why is the portfolio deteriorating? How do you get the portfolio to grow and all that? You must know all those things. You must know all those ratios that they talk about. So not when they're discussing HR, let me wait until when we get to HR, then we'll start talking. So decisions will be made over. You will not know how it's going to impact your people. You're not going to know how it's going to impact your development costs. When you discover, okay, yeah. Let me see, which other question can I take now? We may not be able to stop people from, yeah. The recorded session forwarded to us would appreciate, yeah, I believe the recording will be available. Okay, I think I've taken all the questions. So, except there's any other one, I've taken all the questions that I can see here. Yeah, so is there any other person that wants to ask me? I've not touched.
Okay, so let me ask one slightly personal question here. I typically like asking something.
Okay.
So I'm aware you have triplets. How do you manage this talent?
Okay. It's not easy to manage them. You know, I turned off my video and one came and was trying to turn everywhere upside down. Daddy is talking and all that. Okay, so it's not easy. They all want attention at the same time. Okay. But what I've done is to create some sort of ritual.
Wow, it appears EM has been logged out of the meeting. Hopefully, they will join. I hope it is not one of the triplets that is responsible for this. Okay, so while we are trying to wait for him, we have about 10 minutes or less left on this call. I'd like to.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, he's back. He's back.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, something happened to my network. They all want attention at the same time. Okay. So sometimes in the morning, because I leave very early, I don't have enough time with them in the morning, but when I come back in the evening, we have a special time. So sometimes we have a dancing time when I come back. We dance, Saturdays we go out. Okay. I create time for them on Saturdays. Then Sundays after church, I also create time for them. We go out. So most of the weekends, I usually will be responsible for bathing them. Okay. So that's how we bond. That's how we bond as well. And they always want me to beat them. So when it's weekend, they insist, no, it's daddy that is going to beat us today. And then we do that. So it's fun, exciting, but sometimes also very tasking. It's also tasking. So, but what I try to do is just to create that time, create that bonding time for them. And it's very critical. It helps them to always want. So these days now, because they are on holiday, most times they wake up very early, and insist they want to go with me to the office. So I promise them that one of these days we'll go to the office, so they go to see what the office looks like. So that's that.
Wala. That is having new staff at the same time on the same day.
Yeah,
Better prepare their body. Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask generally, in recent times, EM, this amplification of these toxic workplaces. I know you've spoken in different forums and on different platforms, but generally, what are your thoughts around this workplace toxicity and how can HR best mediate and ensure a balanced workplace? After that, we take the question from a very precious Aki.
Okay, fine. Okay, so toxic workplaces. We can do all we want, but one way or the other, we will not be able to eliminate it completely, okay? But one thing I know is that we will be able to control it if we want it controlled. And it starts from the top. If the leader of that organization, maybe the CEO, is toxic, then it will be very difficult for you to somehow avoid such happening in that organization, except we have a situation where it's an external body, okay, that can regulate that particular kind of conduct in the organization. So it's for the government or the Ministry of Labor to strengthen, have institutions that can inspect or allow people to whistle blow, okay, when such kind of atmosphere exists in that particular organization, and then have a mechanism whereby it can be addressed, okay? So for larger organizations, larger corporates that have these whistleblowing facilities, instrument for escalating situations, okay, in the organization, it's easier for them to be able to manage. Like in my organization now, yes, we're headquartered in Botswana. So even if something is happening in subsidiary here, you can actually go beyond the CEO and go outside the CEO, and some other person can investigate what is going on. Okay. So when you have such a structure, it makes it easy. But if that does not exist, then it becomes a bigger problem. So except we have situation whereby we continue to create awareness and draw people's attention to the consequences of having such kind of behavior in the workplace, we will not be able to control. So I think what we're currently doing by creating awareness, like the Me Too movement now that you have, people are beginning to be conscious. So if we begin to create this kind of awareness, I guess organizations, even CEOs who are toxic in nature, will begin to become conscious and see how they can avoid such a thing, because when they look at the impact that it will have on their business, business they are going to lose, and weigh it against them behaving in the way that they are behaving, they want to do something around that. So that will be my take on that topic.
Okay, thank you so much. I have one more question, but I think somebody wants to ask a question by speaking. If you are that person, you have 30 seconds. Please quickly go ahead. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Yemi and EM. I just wanted to know if this recording will be shared with us later, so we can actually go back to the teachings and everything.
Yes. If you're on the HR mentorship platform or you're following me on LinkedIn, you'll surely get recorded. All right. So one more question. Due to these generational differences, there are certain behaviors that maybe people in the generation, Z or millennials will put out, and the slightly more matured in age, maybe the 50-something for something, we see as we do. How does HR balance these generational differences where, we are filtering information from slightly different lenses, especially at the workplace?
Okay, so it's like when you have, let me take the family, you have children in the house. Everybody does not behave the same way, but you want to pass the same message across to them. They will all not take it in the same way. So if you understand how A, B, C behaves or takes in message, then you need to modify that message to be able to convey it in a way that they can really understand and appreciate what it is that you are trying to share. So let's take in the workplace. When we want to deploy any initiative, there is need to get the views from everyone within that particular system, okay? And then when we've gotten all the views, we then need to find what is the middle way, okay, in order to balance it, such that when eventually we deploy the initiative that we want to deploy, we're able to satisfy everyone within the organization. So everyone's voice is carried along. But if we say, okay, where are the older generations, these ones are too young, they will not understand, and we just go ahead and insist, we'll get to the point where we create a problem. Okay, like you have maybe in the home, you have teenagers and say they will not understand. Let me even take the example of my little kids. Sometimes you do something and say, no, they are little children, they don't understand. But when you are not there, they will start role-playing what you were doing. Okay, so that is the same way. So they will understand in the workplace, they all understand, but you need to also come to their own level to be able to appreciate how they want things done. Okay, and then based on how they want things done, it's also for you to see if it doesn't really hurt your business, then we can take that on board, so that we ensure that we are carrying everyone along. When we talk about the diversity, equity, inclusive and belonging, diversity and inclusion in organization. So it's basically ensuring that you are including everybody, including the preferences of the different groups, generations that you have in the workplace, okay, and not just only catering to one generation. And as we know, the other generations are actually exiting. So it's these new ones that we think, oh no, they are unruly, they are not, their head is not at home. They are the ones who are going to take over this organization going forward. So it's important that we begin from now to understand them. Okay, we want them to do things in certain ways. Okay, and then even though they have their own ways that they want to get those things done, let's see what they are proposing. Is it going to damage the organization, or is it going to help to improve the organization? Is there a way we can tame a little bit what they are trying to do so that we can get to the destination? So that will be my take. That will be my take on that.
Thank you so much. Before I say thank you, finally, there's one bonus question, but there's a constraint. You have 1 minute to answer this. What would you say to the people on this call as to how to manage the Japa generation and the eminent exodus in the next few weeks? as a result of universities resuming for postgraduate and new program?
Okay, so there is really nothing you can do because the problem is not with the organization. The problem is with the country. Okay, most people, even people who have very good paying jobs are leaving the country. So they are leaving the country. So it's not because of them. So the only thing you can then do, okay, because you can't stop people from leaving, is to begin to make sure that you have a succession plan in place, okay? For every role that is key within the organization, make sure you have 1 or 2 people who can step in should that person who currently occupies that role leaves. So don't assume that somebody is going to stay with you forever. People are going to leave. And with what is going on now, a lot of people are going to leave. So begin to make sure that the 2nd level, 3rd level people are developed to take over the role. Like in my current role now, if I'm not in the office today, I have someone in my office who can take over and do exactly what I'm doing. So what am I doing? What I've been doing over the years since I joined is to make sure I carry this person along. Okay? In everything that I'm doing, I carry them out. They might not necessarily have to stay in it. I just want you to be in the know. This is what we're doing. Then except maybe if there are very high level sensitive things that I wouldn't want this person to know, I can take that out. Okay. But if it's not that too sensitive that for them to, that it won't cause any damage to the organization, I carry them along and they get to know everything. Okay. My management meetings, if I'm not going to be present, they can represent me in the management meeting and they be able to share exactly. And then some of the tasks that I need to do, what I also do is to delegate it. So they get to do it, I present it. So what am I doing? I'm helping to build them. And then sometimes I ask them to present what they've developed. Okay. So begin to have people who are groomed to take over from the others because people are going to leave. So until when things begin to sort itself out in the country, you begin to have people now stay back. So that would be my recommendation for all this mass exodus, okay, that is happening now in the country.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. I'd like to express my personal and our collective profound gratitude on behalf of everybody who has joined this call and everyone who will also watch later online. We'd like to say thank you. EM, we do not take your time and your wisdom and your experience for granted. We pray that God, in His infinite mercy, will continue to bless you, will continue to expand your coast, and He will take you even to greater heights. Thank you so much. Please say thank you to EM. Do you want to unmute? Do you want to type it? Please show him your gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate. God
Really
bless
appreciate.
you.
Thank you. God bless you. More grace.
Thank you, Em.
More higher
Thank you. God
heights.
bless you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
So
Thank you, EM.
feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. And if you still want to ask further questions in any particular area, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emma. I see you. Thank you for coming. Chris, I saw you. Chris Debo.
Emma, nice one, Emma. Hello.
Yeah, I saw you, Chris. Thank you for joining.
Good. Well done. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Theophilus. So I wait for your message, Theophilus.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Can we sing along? I'm actually enjoying the music.
Yeah, so single. We'll record your voice.
Thank you very much, EM.
Thank you, Rosemary. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.